I was speaking to a friend the other day, and we were making fun of like guys who use the term like alpha male and beta male, blah 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 blah. And we were saying that like because there's so much like someone can be an alpha in one environment, but then you go to a different environment and you're just unsure. You're not so there's kind of like the reducibility of the benefit of that word because it really you if you're trying to apply that you're the top dog in every environment, you're just going to create so much I guess self-doubt in yourself. Whereas and it speaks to exactly your story being like you led 30 plus missions on these SEAL team missions where I'm sure I can't even imagine the conditions, and you had to say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to dive, I'm going to complete this mission. But then when it came to completing your first book, it was hard to get out of your head to say that, oh, I can't do this, and you needed a coach, a believer, someone beside you, in this case your wife. And I think it's such an amazing example of adaptability, and that all of us sometimes need someone that believes in us. So why do you think that you were able to do obviously all of these incredible feats as a SEAL leader or SEAL team member? And then why do you think the legal case was stronger in your head for that you couldn't write this book? Why do you think that it wasn't easy to adapt those same skills of mental toughness when it came to a new era?
Sure. So I do counseling and I help guys that are transitioning out of the military. And one of the things that I've discovered and I've observed interacting with these guys is that it's kind of like going up to ask that girl for the dance or the date. Your self-esteem is kind of on your
Sleeve.
yeah, it's on your sleeve, and you start looking at the consequences, the risks related to making the move. So when you're at the top of your game, if you're a Army colonel or an Air Force colonel, you're a fighter pilot, you're a SEAL, whatever, you've got 20 years of excellence or 24 years of excellence or 25 years of excellence. You're a combat veteran. You've checked every box. You've gone to every school. You've got every accolade. You got a chest full of medals and all that. And then that day is over. And just you could take the military context out of it and put in professional sports player of any
Right.
sport, right? Everybody knows what you do. Everybody knows what you do is cool or high value. You're in movies, you're in shows. There's merch all about what you do, whatever. And suddenly, you're not. You're
Right.
just a dude,
Right.
right? You're just a
Right.
guy. I mean, I tell you, when I got my retirement card and I walked out of the base, walked over to my car and started to drive off the base, I was kind of euphoric, but at the same time, I was thinking, I'm
Uh-oh.
just a dude,
Right.
right? And you have a sense that you've just lost all your mojo. You've lost 20 years of mojo. You've lost whatever, and that's not true. But that's the way your brain works, right? Because
Yeah.
whatever you're going to do next, you're probably not going to be as good or as great by any measure. So what I basically do is I just say, okay, let's put this in perspective. Kind of going back to the book in a loop here. I'll say, how old were you when you went to pilot school? How old were you when you went to SEAL training? How old were you when you went to whatever? And they'll tell me. It's usually really young. How long did it take before you were considered a proficient professional? I mean, proficient. Nobody had to think about whether you could or couldn't fly the plane or could or couldn't do the job, whatever. And they'd usually say about 2.5 years. 2.5 years. Okay, how long did it take before you were an expert? Before you were the person people pointed to and said, that's the best. That's the guy who's the best in the squadron or whatever. It's not probably 4.5, 5 years, maybe 6 years. How long did it take before you were a leader? Before you were given the grant to drive and direct other people? 7 years, 8 years. All right. So you want to start a restaurant. How many years do you have in the restaurant business? 0. So you want to be an engineer. So you want to start, whatever. And the answer is 0. I said, so you're at the apprentice level of this next thing. It would be insane for you to believe that anybody should look at you as an apprentice and give you the same deference that you had at the peak of your career after 20 years.
Right.
And you know what? There are probably movies about restaurants, but not as many as there are about SEALs or fighter pilots. And so you also have to accept that this isn't going to be a high visibility, performance. It's going to be, a
Right.
lot of this is going to be invisible to the rest of the world and even to your family. You're going to be in some room working your butt off to learn how to do whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
So the theme of that is you have to apprentice yourself to the thing you want to do. Basically, I had a name for it a long time ago. The presentation was called "Thank You for Your Service," but it was basically a tongue-in-cheek "Thank you for your service." It was like, okay, been there, done that. Okay, what are you going to do now? And now you have to do the same thing you did the last time. Just like with my books, I start every book at 0 words,
Yeah.
and it's just as daunting every book. And every single time, I have to play a mind game, which is what I was saying about the whiteboard. I put up the plan, I put up the metrics and the milestones, and when there's just one milestone of 25 done, you're still like, oh man, this is going to take forever. So then, if it's a discipline, the discipline tends to take over, like brushing your teeth every morning. You don't score that, you just do that, right? And eventually it becomes like that. You just show up, you do whatever work you have to do, whether it's learn something new, do something new. You start to become more proficient. Eventually, especially if you're open-minded and have intellectual humility and absorb other people's information and experiences, you will start to accelerate. You'll start to go from the apprentice to the journeyman position, eventually to master in that new area. But you have to put the time in. There's no instant gratification in anything if you really want to master it.